Today, we're diving into something that is, frankly, a massive public health issue. It's this dangerous, vicious cycle connecting diabetes and heart disease. And, understanding this link is absolutely the first step if we're ever going to break the chain. Okay, let's just start with a number. A number that should really make you pause. Back in 2019, 463 million adults around the world had diabetes. And the projection? Well, it's on track to hit a staggering 700 million by 2045. I mean, this isn't just some abstract statistic. This is a full-blown global health crisis. So that leads us to the real question, right? The one we're here to answer. If you have diabetes, your risk for a heart attack or a stroke just skyrockets. We're talking 2 to 4 times higher. But why? How on earth does a problem with your blood sugar lead to such a crisis in your arteries? Well, let's unpack that. To really get this, we have to go right back to the beginning. And the beginning of this entire dangerous cascade, it all starts with something called insulin resistance. You have to think of this as the very first domino that gets tipped over. So what is it exactly? Well, normally insulin is like a key. It's supposed to unlock your cells to let glucose in so you can use it for energy. Simple enough. But with insulin resistance, that key just stops working as well. The locks on your cells, they get kind of sticky, they start resisting the signal, and so the glucose gets left behind, trapped in your bloodstream. And that's what we call high blood sugar. And this, right here, is where that chain reaction truly kicks off. Because once insulin resistance takes hold, it's not just about blood sugar anymore. It sets off this whole series of biological events that take direct aim at your cardiovascular system. So how does this whole thing build? Well, the next dominoes to fall have everything to do with cholesterol and the health of your arteries. Because here's the kicker. Insulin resistance doesn't just mess with sugar. It fundamentally messes with how your body manages fats, or lipids, in your blood. Now, this chaos actually has a medical name. Atherogenic dyslipidemia. I know, it sounds super complicated, but just think of it as a triple threat to your heart. You get way too much of the bad stuff, not nearly enough of the good stuff, and the bad stuff you do have becomes even more dangerous. And here's exactly how that triple threat works. Insulin resistance literally lowers your good HDL cholesterol. You know, the stuff that's supposed to be like a cleanup crew for your arteries. And then, at the exact same time, it takes your bad LDL cholesterol particles and transforms them, making them smaller, denser, and way, way better at invading your artery walls. This whole process creates a very clear, very predictable path straight to plaque. First, you get more fatty acids in the blood. That causes the liver to start pumping out particles that raise your triglycerides. This, in turn, forges those nasty little small, dense LDL particles. And finally, those particles become the perfect building blocks for arterial plaque. And that process has a name, atherosclerosis. It's the hardening of the arteries. Here's a great way to think about it. Normal, big LDL particles are kind of like fluffy beach balls. They tend to just bounce off your artery walls, no big deal. But these small, dense particles that get created by insulin resistance, they're like tiny little bullets. They're sneaky. They can penetrate the artery lining, get stuck in there, and that's when they start forming that dangerous pack. All right, so we've followed the path from insulin resistance all the way to plaque buildup in the arteries. So what happens next? Well, this is the fallout. This is the stage where the damage can become critical and lead to major life-threatening events. The damage actually happens on 2 different fronts. You have macrovascular complications. That's the stuff we usually think of, right? Damage to the big blood vessels that lead to your heart and brain, which is what causes heart attacks and strokes. But diabetes also causes microvascular damage to the tiny, delicate vessels in your kidneys and your eyes. And that's why kidney disease and vision loss are also such huge risks. And it's not just a plumbing problem. It's not just about a physical blockage. That high sugar environment in the blood creates this toxic brew of constant, low-grade inflammation and oxidative stress. It's like a chemical assault that's happening 24/7, and it directly damages the delicate lining of your blood vessels, making the whole system more fragile and accelerating all the damage we've been talking about. Okay, so that was a lot of bad news. But here's the good news. Because we understand this chain reaction so well, we now have amazing ways to intervene, to actually break the chain. Let's take a look at how modern medicine is fighting back.
The most important point here is that you can't just treat one little symptom and call it a day. To really work, you need a comprehensive strategy, one that attacks the problem from every single angle. It's about managing the whole system, from blood sugar to blood pressure to cholesterol. And everything, absolutely everything, starts with lifestyle. This is the foundation. Things like a healthy diet, getting regular exercise, and managing weight, they all directly attack the root cause of the problem by making your body more sensitive to insulin again. And oh yeah, quitting smoking, that is just non-negotiable. It's one of the most powerful things you can do to protect your blood vessels, period.
Now, on top of that strong foundation, we have an incredible medical toolkit. For years, statins have been the workhorses, doing a great job lowering that dangerous LDL cholesterol. But now, we have these revolutionary new classes of drugs. I'm talking about things like GLP-1 agonists and SGLT2 inhibitors. These are absolute game changers. They don't just help control blood sugar. No, they have been proven in huge clinical trials to directly protect the heart, slashing the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and even cardiovascular death.
And this brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway from all of this. For decades, the main goal of diabetes care was pretty simple, just lower the blood sugar number. But that has fundamentally changed. The goal today is no longer just about controlling sugar, it is about actively protecting the heart. This is a complete paradigm shift in how we approach this disease, and it is saving so many lives.
So we've looked at the problem, we've followed the chain reaction, and we've seen the solutions. What's the final message we should walk away with?
You know, it really comes down to this. We now understand the chain reaction linking these two diseases better than we ever have before. We have this incredible arsenal of both lifestyle and medical tools to intervene at every single step of the way. So, with a real team-based approach, where doctors and specialists and the patient are all working together, you have to ask, are we finally on the verge of severing this deadly link for good? It's a really hopeful future to think about. Thanks for tuning in.